चरण से भी भक्त सने भास जन्म जन्म होए अभिलाष चाहे गोसाई जब तजे कोई भास राधा कृष्ण नित्य लीला करिला प्रकाश आनंद बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन आनंद बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन श्री गुरु वैष्णव पदे मजरिया मान श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद पद्म कोरि आश नाम संकीर्तन को है नरोत्तम दास हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः हरिहराय नमः कृष्ण यादवाय नमः यादवाय माधवाय केशवाय नमः गोपाल गोविंद राम श्री मधुसूदन गिरिधारी गोपीनाथ मदन मोहन हरि गुरु वैष्णव भागवत गीता श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री गोपाल भट्ट दास रघुनाथ शिखाए गोसाई गोरी चरण वंदना जाओ जे दिन आज अभिष्ट पुराण शिखाए गोसाई गोरी चरण भज भज रेणु मोरा दास राधे चरण से भी भक्त सने भास जन्म जन्म होए अभिलाष शिखाए गोसाई जब तजे कोई भास राधा कृष्ण नित्य लीला करिला प्रकाश आनंद बोलो हरि भज वृंदावन श्री गुरु वैष्णव पदे मजरिया मान श्री गुरु वैष्णव पद पद्म कोरि आश नाम संकीर्तन को है नरोत्तम दास हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, so we have great fortune to hear from His Grace Vaibhava Krishna Prabhu. Hare Ram. So, how many of you don't know about Vaibhava Krishna Prabhu? How many of you don't know about Vaibhava Krishna Prabhu, the speaker? Okay, so let me do this for you. So Vaibhava Krishna Prabhu has done his bachelor's BTech from NIT Hamirpur and in computer science and engineering. And then after completing his bachelor's, he worked in various companies, Samsung and also Goldman Sachs and various other companies. And he came to Bangalore from Noida, earlier he was in Noida. These are his material qualifications. Apart from material qualifications, if we talk about the spiritual qualifications, then he has done his Bhakti Shastri degree from Mayapur Institute of Higher Education, and that is in-depth study about Bhagavad Gita, other books like Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, Sri Shukrishan, and he has already completed. Now he is pursuing his Bhakti Vaibhava degree, which is in-depth study of Srimad Bhagavatam, first 6 cantos. So he's very much materially qualified and also spiritually qualified, and also inspiring. He's a full-time spiritual counselor in ISKCON Whitefield, and now inspiring many youths all across Bangalore and outside also in India. So, and in his, I see personally he's dedicated about his sadhana, very, very strong in his sadhana, and all other aspects, practices of Krishna consciousness, and inspiring so many people. So let's welcome His Grace Vaibhava Krishna Prabhu, and now we're chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare
Krishna. So we'll start with the Mangalachara. You can repeat after me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitamsha Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamsha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Iti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyat Deshatarine Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namane Gauratushe Namaha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vancha Kalpatarobhisha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripatam ham vande Shri Guru Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanyeshwar. Hare Krishna. So now we'll discuss a very interesting topic. Basically this topic is in continuation with what we discussed till now. The theme of Chitraketu. So we'll continue the same theme. And we have named this topic like this, the tragedy of life, because there is a twist that happens after that. So what was the point till we discussed? What do you remember? What was the last thing we discussed in the last class, last session? Urgency was there. Means in the past time what happens? Chitraketu? Narad Muni? Narad Muni gave him instructions. And finally it's described after Narad Muni gives him instructions, Chitraketu follows the instructions and within 7 days he attained the association of the Lord. He is able to see the Lord in the form of Sankarshan. So Chitraketu meets the Supreme Lord, which is actually the goal of our practice. The goal of our entire practice, the goal of Krishna consciousness is that one day we can see the Lord face to face. One day actually we can become purified. One day we can attain that highest destination. That is the goal of the entire practice. But after that happens a tragedy. And that is what we'll be covering now, what happens after that. Just like after the movie has a happy ending and then there is something afterwards which they don't show. But Bhagavatam describes everything. Bhagavatam talks about what happens after Chitraketu meets the Supreme Lord, what does he do after that. And as always, we dedicate this presentation to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. By his mercy, we are able to discuss all these topics. He was the one who went out, did so much sacrifice, that today we are able to sit here in the association of devotees and discuss all these topics. So before beginning, I'll just discuss some background of what happened before the next pastime starts. So now we all know Chitraketu's background. Charu Prabhu nicely highlighted everything. How he was given a benediction by Angira Muni. What benediction was given? That he'll get a child. Because he even though he was a crorepati, he had crore wives, but he couldn't beget a single child from them. So Angira Muni gave him a benediction that he'll get a child. But after that, he begets a child. What happens after that? That child dies untimely or is poisoned untimely. Poisoned by whom? The wives of Chitraketu who got envious. Because only one wife begot that child, that was her name was Kritaditi, and other wives become envious. Envious, and that led to poisoning the child. Finally, the child dies. And after that, Narad Muni comes into the picture. Because they know, these people, they know, these elevated saints, they know when is the right time to give knowledge to a person. This is the right time because everything has been taken away from him. Now we can give knowledge to him. You know, it's described, see, Angira Muni came before also. Angira Muni came in his life before also, and he came there, he gave him the benediction. That time also a question is asked, that time also Angira Muni could have told him all these things about the truth of life, all these things about karma, that it's not in your destiny to beget a child. But that time Angira Muni just gives him that fruit, just gives him that offering, that you give it to your wife and she will beget a child. And of course, in the future, it will lead to some problem, or it will lead to some shoka, lamentation. Because that time, Chitraketu was very much attached. Chitraketu was just thinking about getting a child. Somehow or the other, I want to beget a child. And at that time, if knowledge was given, that knowledge wouldn't have been received nicely. And this is a very amazing learning here, that whenever we want to receive some knowledge, whenever we want to get some knowledge, we need to be there with an open heart to understand, to grab that knowledge. And also we need to be humble. If we already have some preconceptions, if we already have decided something, then it's very, very difficult to receive knowledge. Here Angina Muni also didn't give him knowledge because he knew at this time he won't receive or he won't take my instructions. And so later on, when he went through the tragedy, or when that son died, then Narad Muni comes into the picture, and then he speaks all the big philosophical things. Many analogies he gives, like the analogy of the waves in a river, how different particles are brought together in the river, and with time they all go different ways. Twigs in the river, they are also brought together by the force of the waves, and with time they all separate apart. And we have heard many analogies of Prabhupada also, like people coming in a train, sitting together, having a nice time, but at one time they all go to their own destinations. So this is how Narad Muni gives him enlightenment at the right time. And this time he was able to accept the knowledge. Because he was in distress, he was in that state. When the knowledge was given at the right time and in a correct way, in an appropriate way, this person became enlightened. And he actually followed that knowledge. Srila Prabhupada ki. He actually took those instructions to his heart. And it's described not just he, Chitraketu, his wife Kritaditi, and all the co-wives that were there. All of them got the knowledge, all of them became enlightened, and even the co-wives were feeling very, very repentant, feeling very bad for what they had done for them poisoning the child. They were also feeling like that. This is what happens when a person gets true knowledge in his life. When a person gets some spiritual knowledge, when a person understands what is the goal of life and what I am currently engaged in, then a person feels repentant, feels sorry for his actions he committed in his past, out of ignorance. Of course, if someone is doing it willingly and he doesn't feel like that, that means he has not yet received the knowledge. He might have heard it theoretically, but if he is not feeling repentant for the actions he has done in the past, that means the knowledge has not been properly received. And here we see Chitraketu and all gets the knowledge, they became enlightened, and finally they meet the Supreme Lord. So simple thing here mentioned, that association leads to enlightenment. Just like if we associate with people who are engaged in sinful activities, who are all the time engaged in some or the other nonsense activities, then it is just time that is separating that we also become a part of this. And that's why we say association, just like COVID, association is also very, very contagious. We take nice association and we get those kinds of qualities. And similarly, if we take some illicit, say some negative associations or associations of people engaged in nonsense or sinful activities, with time we also get those qualities. So now one question comes here, like we have a shloka in the Bhagavad Gita. Third chapter, the shloka comes, Indriyani paranya ahor, indriyabhya paramana, manasastu parabuddhir, yo buddhe paratastu saha. You know the meaning of this? This gives a hierarchy, that which is on top. As we have already discussed that the senses are superior to sense objects. Above the senses we have the mind. Above mind, we have the intelligence. And above all that, we have the soul. Now, question comes, if we have the hierarchy like this, then why is it that people get attracted? Why is it that people get deviated? Why is it people, even though they have the intelligence, they have the right knowledge, they still are not able to follow the path? Because we have already discussed this previously many times, intelligence is not strong. Or like the chariot example we give, that the mind, the senses pull away the intelligence. So actually a very nice thing about this shloka is given that this shloka is not meant for the conditional entity. This shloka is meant for those people who have perfected their life. That hierarchy that is given, that the sense objects, above them the senses, above them the mind, and then intelligence, and finally the soul. So above them the mind, intelligence, and the soul. That hierarchy is meant for the liberated entities. So then for us, what's the hierarchy? Since we are in the conditioned state, we have something called as conditional hierarchy. That is just the reverse of this. For us, what's the situation? The sense objects pull us. The senses pull us towards the sense objects. They take over the mind, they take over the intelligence, and we just get deviated. This hierarchy is given in the second chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. So second chapter, there is a shloka which talks about that even one of the roaming senses we have in our body, or even one of the senses can pull us towards some sinful activity. That says about Vayur Iva Navambasi. That just like the raging wind, even if one sense is not controlled or not under our control, it can pull the human being to some sinful activity. That is our state. And that's why practicing devotional service in association becomes very, very important. So sometimes this question is asked that, okay, I am practicing devotional service, I am doing all these things, but I am not feeling like doing it. It's becoming very, very mechanical. Well, I don't have any taste, I don't have anything what to do. I want to do spontaneous, like I should have some feeling, I should have some bhav. Like sometimes new people come, they speak like this. But what you are doing, this chanting and all, I worship the Lord, I have lots of bhava for the Lord. And like that they'll say, hardly they'll be doing anything, but they'll speak big, big words. Oh, you should, why you do all these things? You should have some bhava for the Lord, some feelings for the Lord. But actually it's described, feelings don't come just like that. Feelings come after we are purified to a certain extent. And for that purification, this devotional service becomes very, very important. We can call it mechanical devotional service, or even a better term we can use, devotional service with some less spontaneity. It will look good to hear like that. But that has to be performed. One time I was hearing, so one devotee in ISKCON, one sannyasi in ISKCON, he was asking one person, one not a disciple, a new person who had come, that are you chanting your rounds, are you doing sadhana properly? So this person said, Maharaj, man nahi lag raha hai abhi. My mind is not feeling like, so I am not doing these days. So Maharaj, this sannyasi told him that, okay, if you don't do it, then mind will happen, or then your mind will feel like doing it. मतलब if अगर नहीं करोगे तो मन करने लगेगा क्या? Point he was trying to make is, somehow or the other we have to engage the senses, because our state is currently the senses are being pulled towards sense objects, senses are pulled towards sense gratification or enjoying. So when we engage the senses, with time the mind also becomes controlled. When the senses are put into some activity, or as Prabhupada said, dovetailing the senses in the service of the Lord, then it is only with time that the mind also comes under control. Initially the mind will be there, mind will also be engaged, but then the mind will start pulling us backwards. The past samskaras will come up, past impressions will come up, and then we'll not be able to do those activities. We'll feel like, why to do this mechanical thing? I'm not feeling any taste, I'm not feeling good at it. But the point is, it is necessary for our purification. Because currently our state is not spontaneous devotional service, our state is spontaneous sense gratification. We just like that spontaneously, we get pulled towards sense gratification, towards enjoying the senses. And that's why the medicine is mechanical devotional service, even if we don't feel like we have to do. And when we do it perfectly, when we do it again and again, whatever has been prescribed, whatever the rounds have been given, whatever chanting, whatever process has been given, when we do again and again, with time the mind also engages in it. And as the Bhagavad Gita says, once the mind is controlled, it becomes the best of the friend. When the mind is uncontrolled, it's the worst of the enemies. That is our current state. But once we control the mind, it becomes the best of the friends. And then we come to that level of spontaneous devotional service. Even Prabhupada was asked like that. One of the disciples, Hayagriva Prabhu, he came to Prabhupada in the initial times. That was very new. When ISKCON was just established, people didn't know much, and these new people that were there. So he came once to Prabhupada and he said, Prabhupada, you told that if you chant, we'll attain love of Godhead. And since last month I'm chanting. Since last month, every day without fail, I'm chanting the holy names. I didn't get any love of Godhead, I didn't get anything. And Prabhupada started laughing that it takes time. Just keep on doing it again. Keep on doing it again and again. So that points as the consistency. Because we understand the philosophy from millions of lifetimes we have been conditioned in this world. From millions of lifetimes we have been there in different bodies, doing different activities. So it's not that we immediately take and we'll get some taste or we'll get some spontaneity. It will take time. But that actually works. With time, association, if we take and if we perform it properly in a correct way, then we can actually go to that stage of spontaneous devotional service or doing devotional service with some feelings or getting some taste. But that is a higher taste. Initially, we have to do it. We have to force ourselves to do it, or we have to do it as a duty because we have been told to do it. So this is what happens now. In this pastime, coming back to the pastime, Chitraketu got that association, he became enlightened. Now we'll discuss what happened after that. So now Chitraketu, when he got that benediction, so he was given a benediction of an opulent life. And then after his life got finished, he was given the benediction that he will come back home, back to Godhead. Similar benediction was even given to Prahlad Maharaj. He was told that you enjoy the kingdom for a huge number of years, and after that you will come back to Godhead. Just imagine getting such a benediction, there will be no worry itself. Person can do whatever he likes, and then he'll go back to Godhead. But here we see an amazing thing. So now what happens after that? When Lord came in front of him in the form of Anantadev, he gave him the benediction, and then the Lord disappears from the scene. Chitraketu pays obeisances to the Lord, and that time he's made the head of the Vidyadhara planets. He's made the ruler of that Vidyadhara planets. And there Chitraketu Maharaj is praised by the great sages that are there, the saints that are there, the siddhas that are there. Everyone is praising Chitraketu because he had got the association of the Lord. He has got that mercy of the Lord. And Chitraketu also starts enjoying his life. So it's described Chitraketu enjoyed his life. He went to different places. He went to the Sumeru mountains. And many such descriptions are given of beautiful places. He went to all such places in the aeroplanes, and he was enjoying his life. He was going around there in all these different places with a very, very beautiful woman of the Vidyadhara planets. So it's described he was surrounded by many beautiful women, and he was going around in these different places, traveling around, enjoying his life. But now one thing that is mentioned here is when he was traveling around, what was he doing? When we say enjoying, he was not actually enjoying with those women or engaging in some illicit activities. With those women, all those people, he was engaged in chanting of the holy names of the Lord. This is the benediction of the Lord. For us, even if one woman come and our devotional service goes for a toss, and that too women of this planet I am talking about. For Chitraketu Maharaj, women of the Vidyadhara planets were there, much more beautiful. It's described when we go higher in the planetary systems, the bodily beauty becomes more and more. Heavenly planets, the people are more beautiful. The bodies, the women are also very, very beautiful. And there, surrounded among them, he was not doing any illicit activity. He was engaged in chanting the holy names of the Lord, glorifying the Lord. And that is the amazing benediction of the Lord. When Lord gives someone benediction, he makes sure that the person engages in his devotional service, or he also purifies the person, that the person doesn't get deviated from the Lord. So one thing we can learn from this is being focused on the goal. Just like in the case of Chitraketu, we see even after getting that benediction, he had the benediction of a huge bodily strength. He was given that his senses will not deteriorate. Now for us, when we talk about bodily strength, hardly we have some bodily strength. Some disease comes and all our bodily strength is gone. Chitraketu was given a benediction that his bodily strength will not deteriorate. It will continue for a long time. His senses will not deteriorate. If he wanted, he can enjoy a lot with anyone. But even after having all that benediction, instead of enjoying, he was engaged in chanting the names of the Lord along with those Vidyadhara women. That is the thing, that is the lesson we can learn, that not getting deviated from the path. Whatever distractions come, whatever different material for us, of course there won't be so distractions. No woman from heavenly planets is coming for us for sure. But still, whatever distractions come in the path, whatever different women from, not from Vidyadhara planets, but from ACS layout come in our path, we have to be very, very careful. We have to be careful that our goal is one, our goal is fixed, and that is to attain the lotus feet of the Lord, to rise in devotional service. And no matter whatever happens, whoever comes, we have to be fixed. That this is what we see in the pastime of Chitraketu, how he continued the devotional service. So now comes a twist. Now what happens is, just like that, he was going around in different places and he was glorifying the Lord. So one day he came to some place near the Sumeru mountains, the bowers of Sumeru mountains. So this photo describes, so that photo, the person in the aeroplane, that is Chitraketu. So now he was going around in different places and he happened to reach a place where Lord Shiva was there. Lord Shiva was sitting. And Lord Shiva was surrounded by a great assembly of sages and saints. Many siddhas were there in that assembly, charnas and big saintly personalities were there. And there actually Lord Shiva was sitting and Parvati was sitting on his lap. Parvati was sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva and Lord Shiva was embracing Parvati in that assembly. Now this scene bewildered Chitraketu. Chitraketu was not able to understand that such a great personality, and he's sitting in the middle of so many big saintly people. Now just imagine the things, imagine the situation. Here we are, and if something like this someone does, we will also consider, we will also get bewildered. What is this person doing? And there in that big assembly, Lord Shiva was sitting like that. And Chitraketu was bewildered. And then Chitraketu started laughing. Looking at that, he laughed loudly. And he laughed loudly that even all of them can hear. Lord Shiva can hear, the sages can hear, and Parvati could also hear. And then he seemingly started criticizing Lord Shiva. Now this word is very important, seemingly. Because later it's described it was not actually criticism. So seemingly it appeared that he started criticizing Lord Shiva. He started saying different things. He said that Lord Shiva, you are the Loka Guru. Or you are the spiritual master of the entire planet, spiritual master of everyone. You are the Guru, you are the Path Pratarshak of everyone. And you are engaging in such an activity, then what will ordinary people do? We have that sloka from Bhagavad Gita, right? Yad yad acharati sheshtas tattad eva taro jana. Whatever action a saintly person performs, common people follow. So Chitraketu said that you are the Loka Guru, you have done so much austerities and penances to attain that position. And how come you are sitting like this? In the assembly of sages, you are sitting shamelessly. Like that he says. And many different terms he used. He says that you are the one who is the strict follower of the Vedic principles. So basically Chitraketu was criticizing by glorifying Lord Shiva's position. He was saying you are such a great person, such a great personality, you have done lots of austerities, you are the Loka Guru and you are a strict follower of Vedic principles. You are a master of great vows. Then how come you are sitting in such a position? How come you are sitting like this? What example you are setting? You know, that time what happened when he criticized in these words, and he used very harsh words. It's given he used very harsh words to criticize Lord Shiva. But still it was not considered an offense. That is a very interesting thing. We know the pastime. Anyone knows the pastime of Daksha? Daksha also, for those of you who don't know, there is another personality called as Daksha. His description also comes in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And Daksha was a personality his daughter's name was Sati. And she was married to Lord Shiva. But Daksha was a personality who was very offensive, very envious of Lord Shiva. And Daksha also did this mistake in the past. Daksha offended Lord Shiva in a big assembly. And that time Daksha had to face the consequences. When he blasphemed Lord Shiva, he had to face the consequences. And when he was blaspheming, the sages that were there, they couldn't tolerate. They couldn't hear all that blasphemy, so they just closed their ears and left from that place. But here it's described when Chitraketu said all these things, it was not actually an offense. Why? Because he understood the position of Lord Shiva. He knew that Lord Shiva is a great personality. He is actually the guru of the entire world. And his criticism was meant to say that if you behave like this, then common people will follow your action. That's what people in this world don't know, that we are drinking ganja. Why? Because Lord Shiva also drinks poison and does all these things. Many people, the so-called followers of Lord Shiva, and they'll do anything and everything. They'll be drinking ganja, they'll be doing all these things. Of course, they won't take poison. No one will take those kind of things. But they'll be drinking all these things and they'll be calling, we are followers of Lord Shiva. We are big devotees of Lord Shiva. So that's why, this is the reason, Chitraketu knew people in this world will do like this. That's why he was saying that why are you doing, what an example you are setting. That was not actually considered an offense. But then one person in that assembly took that as an offense. And who was that? Parvati. So now what happened is, Chitraketu, when he criticized Lord Shiva, everyone was silent. Lord Shiva listened to that blasphemy, but Lord Shiva knew that this person does not actually mean to criticize me. He's not criticizing me, he's just telling me that I'm not setting a right example. And that's why Lord Shiva did not react. Lord Shiva just smiled and just stayed quiet. And when all the saintly personalities, they saw that Lord Shiva is not responding, they also kept quiet. But then one person couldn't tolerate, and that was Parvati. And now one thing we can understand from here is that sometimes what we perceive or sometimes what we see, it's not always that it is always 100% true. Sometimes only when we go deep in spirituality, we are able to understand these pastimes or these things. Otherwise, there is a huge possibility we misjudge different activities. Forget about devotees, even sometimes, as in the previous class Charu was mentioning, when people go through difficult circumstances in their life, they even start misunderstanding the Supreme Lord. Start saying, oh, this person, he's a very envious person, he's like this, they start blaspheming the Supreme Lord. And the only reason for that is because they themselves are very shallow. Unless we go deeper in spirituality, we might not be able to understand many things. And that's why only the people who are foolish, they are the ones who raise such questions, who point fingers at great devotees or even dare to raise fingers at the Supreme Lord. Because we need to understand this personality, he's very, very merciful personality. He's not some tyrant master sitting there that, okay, now I'll punish this person, now I'll punish that person. He's not like that. But then people do this mistake because they don't understand or they didn't go beyond the gross things that are there. Even when we see, there was one another incident similar to that when the Rajasuya Yagya was happening. Everyone knows Rajasuya Yagya, which was organized by Yudhishthir Maharaj. There also there was a big assembly that was there, and there was one envious person, one demon who was there, who started criticizing Lord Krishna. Who was that? Shishupal. So Shishupal had been given one benediction or boon that until he reaches one mark. What was that mark? Unless he 100 times. Unless he blasphemes the Lord 100 times, he will be saved or he will be pardoned. But as soon as he makes the 100th blasphemy or as soon as he blasphemes the Lord the 100th time, he will be killed. And Shishupal in that assembly continued because being completely envious of the Lord, couldn't tolerate that why is Lord Krishna being given such a high position in this yagya. And he continued on blaspheming the Lord, And even the sages that were there, they left that place. They couldn't hear that blasphemy, they left that place. And finally, Lord Shiva chopped off his head. So now the point I was trying to make is, similarly is the nature of envious people. They are the ones who always find faults with the Lord. Even if they do something wrong, they are wrong somewhere, but they just need a reason where I can point fingers at the Lord. They won't realize what mistake they have committed. They'll be in ignorance to that, but they will just find out a reason how to blaspheme or how to pull down the Supreme Lord. In this case, what happened is, even though this is a transcendental pastime where Parvati accuses or Parvati curses Chitraketu, and this was also the desire of the Lord, But this just as a lesson we can take, that unless we understand things properly or unless we go deep in spirituality, just by seeing the gross things, we might not be able to understand the situation. Even when we are practicing bhakti, we might not go through a difficult phase, we might go through difficult times, and people who are not deep in spirituality, people who are just floating on the surface, it's said they get washed away at that time. They give up devotional service. They just start blaspheming that I have done so much. What is the benefit of all that? Why I am going through this difficulty? That point comes for those people who don't go deeper in spirituality. So now what happens here is Parvati becomes very, very angry. Parvati starts saying that who is this personality? Who is this Chitraketu? Who has given him the right to judge me? Who has given him the right to judge us? Does he think so much that he is very, very big, even greater than Lord Brahma, Lord Narada, and other saints, Bhrigu Muni? So many saints were there in the assembly. The Kumaras were there, the Manu was there. None of them said a word. None of them criticized Lord Shiva. And what does this person think? This Chitraketu thinks he is very great person, even greater than them or what? And that's why Mother Parvati becomes very, very angry. And she said, because of his behavior, he should be punished. And then Mother Parvati gives him a curse. And what he says? She says that just because you have a demon-like mentality of finding faults in a person, may you become a demon, or may you be born in a demoniac family. And anyone knows which family Chitraketu was born in the next life? Or who was Chitraketu in the next life? Vritrasura. Chitraketu was born as a demon named as Vritrasura. So of course there are glorious pastimes of even this demon. He was actually born in a demonic family, but he was also a great devotee. But anyways, coming back to the topic. So here what happens is Parvati couldn't tolerate all this. Parvati curses Chitraketu that may you become a demon in the next life. But now something very, very amazing happens. And what is that? So Parvati makes this statement. Parvati says, he does not deserve to approach the shelter of Lord Vishnu's lotus feet, who are worshipped by all saintly persons. For he is impudent, thinking himself greatly important. This is again a lesson for us. When it comes to Chitraketu, he was not like that. It was just a plan of the Lord, and that's why those things were spoken. But then what Mother Parvati is trying to teach us through this, that we should never become proud in devotional service. No matter we are doing something or we are advancing in devotional service, we should not feel very, very proud of ourselves. And mostly the case is that we are not at all advanced, but we think we are more advanced than what we are, and that's why people become proud. What to speak of general people, even what to speak of devotees, even general people, they also sometimes become proud. Like I remember one time we were traveling in the train, recently only when we were going to Mayapur. So now one devotee was sharing, some people were sitting in the train, and there was a small girl that was there in the train. So that small girl was there, and her grandfather was also traveling with her. So now this devotee, whenever they get an opportunity, they start to preach. So the devotee saw that small girl, he started telling her that why don't you read the Gita, it's very nice, it will be very helpful, and you learn a lot of things. And hearing this, the grandfather couldn't tolerate. He somehow, I don't know why it happened, he became very angry and said, don't preach to her. We know everything, you don't tell us anything. And the devotee was shocked that I am telling her good things only, I am telling her about the Bhagavad Gita and this and that. And that person, even though he was an old person, he was like, sab pata hai. We know everything. And the devotee asked, okay, you know about Ajamil? And that person surprisingly said, yeah, I know about Ajamil. I know everything. I know what Ajamil did in his life and how sinful he was. And later he chanted the name of Narayan and he became delivered. And like that old man very, very confidently was saying, sab pata hai, everything I know. And this devotee also thought maybe the enlightened person is going with me, some amazing person, he knows everything. After some time, what happened? That same person, that same old man, he took out a pouch from his pocket and then put something and then started this. And now this devotee was like, so much confident, he was saying, sab pata hai, sab pata hai. He was quoting from the Shastras, he was quoting Ajamil, he was quoting this and that. What is he doing? And then devotee asked, what are you doing? He was like, sab pata hai mere ko, sab, I know everything. And then he put that inside his, I know everything I know. So that, coming back to the point, that is what people in this world, they become proud. Just because you know some letters from the Bhagavatam, you know something theoretically from the Bhagavatam, doesn't mean you know everything. And so in spiritual life, it's very, very important to become humble. Humility, said, is the first stepping stone in spiritual life. When a person becomes humble and he is ready to accept instructions, he is ready to accept the things that are told to him, ready to follow instructions, then he can progress in spiritual life. Otherwise, very, very difficult. Otherwise, we are proud, just like people are proud, I know everything. Many people we meet like that. I know everything, I know this, I know that. And later when we see them, when we observe them a little bit, we can clearly see how much they know. So, this is the thing. We see this also in the nature of demons. We have the pastime of Hiranyakashipu. So now when Hiranyakashipu, when his brother was killed, so you know the name of the brother of Hiranyakashipu? Hiranyaksha. Now when Hiranyakashipu's brother was killed, Hiranyaksha was killed, it was killed by the boar form of the Lord. Lord descended in the form of the pig, that is known as the Varaha avatar. And that time when he was saving Mother Earth and Hiranyaksha came in the between, Hiranyaksha came to stop him. That time there was a battle and finally Varaha avatar killed Hiranyaksha, sorry. So when this happened, Hiranyakashipu became very, very angry. And this is the nature of the demons. And he also did the same thing. He started pointing faults in the Lord. He said that it seems like this Lord Vishnu, he didn't even say Lord, he said this Vishnu who is there now he has become partial. Actually, Vishnu is supposed to be impartial. Vishnu is not supposed to take sides of demigods or demons. He is always supposed to be impartial. So Hiranyakashipu also knows the philosophy. Just like this old man, even Hiranyakashipu knows the philosophy entirely. He's saying Vishnu is supposed to be impartial, but now it seems he has become partial. He has taken the side of the demigods, he has killed my brother. He has killed my brother Hiranyaksha. And that means now he is no longer the Supreme Lord. Now he's just some ordinary person because he has lost that quality of being impartial. And that's why now what I'll do is I'll cut off his head. Hiranyakashipu is saying, because these demons, they think that they can do something to the Lord. He said, now I'll chop off his head, and with the blood that comes out from his head, I'll offer that blood to my brother. And he actually says, because my brother loves blood, he loves sucking blood, so I'll offer this blood to my brother as an offering. Just like we have this Pitra Paksha, no? We offer certain things to our Pitras, and Pitras, we offer Vishnu Prasad to our Pitras. So these demons also do some offerings. So this is the offering of blood they do. That I'll cut off Vishnu's head and I'll offer that blood to my brother. Why? Because it seems he has become impartial. The point is, he also knows the philosophy. Later what happens when the Hiranyaksha dies? So Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha's mother's name was? Who was their mother? Diti. We know Diti and Kashyapa Muni united in an untimely way, so they begotten these sons. So now when Hiranyaksha dies, naturally her mother Diti, very much attached to the child, very much affectionate, she was very, very depressed, lamenting a lot. And even the wife of Hiranyaksha's name was Rushabhanu. And all the sons of Hiranyaksha, they were also lamenting the death. They were also very, very sad, in a very, very pathetic condition. And that time Hiranyakashipu comes there and starts giving them some knowledge, some actual spiritual knowledge from the Bhagavad Gita. And he actually, if you read that portion of the Bhagavatam, it actually appears that this person is a very, very enlightened soul. He speaks such amazing points right from the Bhagavad Gita. He gives many, many examples. Like one of the examples he gives is just like when we have some hot water. You've seen like in the northern parts when we go, when the weather is very, very hot. So in some places they put some cold water, these areas, they place the cold water in some tankers and all so that people can come and drink that cold water. So Hiranyakashipu gives that example. He says that just like travelers come in some place which is very, very hot and they take that water and then they again go apart. Similarly, people in this world, they come together in the tie of something called as family, and with time, after that, they are all pulled apart. Just see, he's a demon and giving such an amazing, the same demon who is saying, I'll cut off the head of Lord Vishnu, And he is giving such an amazing and correct philosophy from the Bhagavad Gita. And like that, many, many examples. He says that I will kill Lord Vishnu, and if the root is cut, because he knows he's the root, Lord is the root, and all the demigods that are there, for them the life of the soul is Lord Vishnu. So once I'll cut the root, all these demigods, they'll automatically lose their power, they'll automatically lose their strength. And then I can become the supreme ruler. I can dominate over everyone. And like that, to satisfy, to pacify his own family, he gives all these examples that don't lament for this death. We are just temporary in this world. This entire world is just a temporary. It's a dukhalam, it's ashashvatam. Why are you lamenting for the death of your son? Another example he gives of a person fallen into a mine. Like, let's say there is a mine of salt. A person falls into that mine, what will he taste? He'll taste all salty only, everywhere he'll just see salt. Similarly, when people in this world, they have been put into this world, which is a world which is temporary, which is a world full of miseries, they are naturally going to see miseries, or miseries will naturally come to them. Why are you lamenting, my dear mother? Why are you lamenting, my sister-in-law? That is Rishabhanu. And like that, he gave such an amazing philosophy, and he pacified all of them. And right after them, so one of the chapters comprise all these teachings of Hiranyakashipu. And after teachings of Hiranyakashipu starts the another Hiranyakashipu's evil plan. And then, as we all know, he starts doing some austerities, tapasya, that now I'll kill Lord Vishnu. The point I'm trying to make is, just having some theoretical knowledge doesn't make us very, very realized. Unless we are humble enough to accept that persons who have the realized knowledge, persons who are actually practicing those teachings, unless we are humble enough to follow their instructions, we won't be able to advance in spiritual life. We might have knowledge, just like the Hiranyakashipu had knowledge. Even Ravana in Ramayana, we know, had amazing knowledge of the scriptures, was a great devotee of Lord Shiva, but they used their knowledge for negative purpose, or always for some wrong reasons. Similarly, people in this world, they also sometimes claim we know everything, we have such knowledge, but they just use their knowledge for all the negative reasons. So now, coming back to the point, so where were we? Parvati, Mother Parvati, she curses Chitraketu. And he says she is not, so you become a demon. Now what happens next is a very, very amazing thing. Now what is the reaction of Chitraketu? See, in this world, what happens whenever whenever you speak some bad words to someone, or whenever you say something to someone, what will the other person do? He will also speak back. He's not tolerant than a tree, or he's not practicing humility or something. He will also say something. But now we see an amazing nature of the devotees that are there. Or how was the reaction of Chitraketu? So can someone read it out loud?
My dear mother, put my own hands on a mirror. I accept the curse on me. I do not mind the curse, for happiness and distress are given by the demigods as a result of one's past deeds.
Just imagine. So that time in the photo we saw, Chitraketu was on that airplane. He was there enjoying, and Parvati and all were there in the assembly. Just after he gets that curse, Chitraketu descends from the airplane. Not for the purpose that now I'll show her my anger and now I'll beat her or whatever. He descends from the airplane. He pays obeisances to Mother Parvati, and then he speaks this. He says that I accept the curse happily. Why I accept the curse happily? Because they understand whatever I am going through, or your curse has just become an instrument for whatever anyways I am going to suffer. Whatever happiness and distress I am supposed to get, that is not because of you. That was because of my past deeds. And this is a very, very amazing thing. This is actually the higher truth of life. And only a person who goes deep in spirituality, only a person who reaches that level, he is able to understand that everything that happens in his life, it is his own past deeds. He never blames anyone. For us, what happens whenever some problem comes in the life, whenever some difficulties come in the life, first thing we do is point fingers at others. Oh, because of him this happened. If he was not there in the picture, everything would be fine. But this person did this to me, or that person did this to me, or because of this circumstance, because of this external condition, this happened, or then because of the Lord this happened. Something the other, we try to point out fingers at some person whenever some problem comes in our life. But here we see the nature of great devotees. Parvati cursed him, and literally the curse that was given is, may you become a demon. And even then he's unaffected. He's saying, I just accept the curse happily. Even though it's described, he had the power, he was a pure devotee, he could have just cursed her back, that may you also become a demon or something. He had the power to do that. But he happily says, I accept this, and all this that is coming is only due to my past deeds. It's only due to my past karma that this is happening. It's not your fault. And what lesson we can learn from this is that whenever we go through some difficult circumstances in my life, whenever we go through some problems in our life, instead of cursing or instead of finding faults in the situation, finding faults in other people, or finding faults in whatever it is, some surroundings, or even finding faults in the Lord, we should understand whatever is happening in the life is only due to our past misdeeds. No one else is responsible. This is what Chitraketu teaches us. And that's what Chitraketu, even after that, never compromised in his spiritual life. When he was cursed, he never said that I'll throw off my beads. What's the use of this japa? What's the use of chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra? What's the use of all this if ultimately I'm being cursed? He continued in spiritual life. Even when he was born as Vitrasur, he continued his amazing spiritual life. He was a great, great devotee, even in the body of a demon. But for us, the case is just the opposite. We just need one reason, one small reason, and then ये लो अपनी कंठी और लो अपनी जपमाला, मुझे नहीं करनी भक्ति. I don't want to do any bhakti. This is, I'm doing bhakti and this is happening in my life, that is happening, what's the use? I'm facing so many problems, I lost my job, I lost this happened, that happened, or I didn't get a job, whatever it is. But here we see, whatever we are getting, that is because of our own karma. Lord is not responsible for that. And we have to continue our spiritual life. Spiritual life never has to be compromised. No matter whatever happens, now we have come to this path, we have to reach the ultimate destination in this life itself. We shouldn't give up again, because what will happen if we give it up again? Again in the next life, someone will approach us for FOE, again we'll come for the Festival of Enlightenment, again we'll attend the sessions, again we'll start from where we stopped. If we stop here at 2 rounds, next life we'll start from 2 rounds, then 3 rounds, then 4, like that. So we want to take that, do like that. That is also, we have the choice, we can do, or we want to complete the path itself in this life. Understanding whatever problems I am getting, that is my own past misdeeds. Lord is not responsible for that. And continuing a spiritual path. So here we see reaction of Chitraketu. He was not at all affected. He bowed down to Mother Parvati. He says that I accept this curse very humbly. And then he speaks philosophy. He speaks all these things. He speaks that anyways, whatever is happening to me, it's not due to your curse. It's not your fault. It's my own past karma that is coming back to me. It's my own past karma, because of him suffering is happening to me. And to taking that curse, he does again descended his airplane and he left that spot. That is the glorious nature of devotees. Now what happens after that? When Chitraketu leaves that place, now Lord Shiva is there, Parvati is there, and the sages is there. Now Lord Shiva actually starts speaking. He starts speaking to Parvati, he starts giving teachings to Parvati, and he starts glorifying the nature of devotees. So in that assembly, Lord Shiva glorifies the devotees. Lord Shiva actually says that by tolerating your curse, actually Chitraketu has excelled you in his qualities. He could have cursed back, he could have done so many things, but he humbly accepted the curse and he just went away. He was not at all bothered also, he was not at all affected, he just continued, went from that place. He has actually excelled you in his qualities. He has even more greater qualities than you. And that is the nature of a devotee. Whatever comes, he just engages in devotional service. He don't just find out faults in the Lord, or he just don't find out faults in the situation. And finally, the Lord Shiva, he glorifies the devotee. So he speaks a very, very amazing shloka. Just repeat after me. He says, Narayana parasarve, na kutashan bibyati, Swargapavarga narkeshu, api tulyartha darshanam. Yeah, can anyone read the translation?
Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayana, never fear any condition of life. For them, the heavenly planets, vibration, and the hellish planets are all the same. For such devotees are interested only in the service of God.
Yeah. So he speaks, Lord Shiva here starts giving teachings to Parvati, and he speaks about the amazing nature of the devotees. He says devotees hardly bother. Devotees' only goal in life is, I want to go back to God and I want to go to that spiritual abode. He's not bothered whatever happens to him. He goes to heavenly planets, hellish planets, someone curses him, wherever he goes. He has just one goal, that is engaging in the service of the Lord. Wherever he is, he just want to engage in the service of the Lord, not bothered about anything else in life. He just has this one goal. And we have so many examples from different places. In the Bhagavatam, we have examples. We have live examples of acharyas in our sampradaya who have done all this. So we'll do a small activity. Can anyone name one few examples who have done all these things from the Bhagavatam, from the Mahabharata? Even after facing so many difficulties, they continued their practice. They never gave up devotional service. Huh? Yeah. Very, very amazing example he gave of Prahlad Maharaj. He was facing so much torture. And by whom he was facing torture? By his own father. Not from someone else, not from some friends, some relatives, by his own father. And what are the kind of tortures he faced? He was thrown from the top of a cliff. His father wanted to kill him. Tried many ways, sometimes throwing from the top of a cliff, sometimes throwing in a pit of snakes, sometimes throwing in a place where elephants are there so that elephants can crush him and he can get killed. Sometimes even throwing him in fire. And anyone knows that pastime of fire? And we celebrate a festival because of that. Holi. Holi is celebrated by? Because someone took Prahlad to fire. What was the name of the demon? Holika. She was the one who had that benediction not to get burned from the fire, and she took Prahlad in the fire. But what happened? Who got burned? Because Prahlad was a great devotee of the Lord, he was protected in all circumstances. But even after all that torture, all those things, he never said, oh, my father is only asking me not to do. My father is telling me engage in sense gratification. Why should I do devotional service? He never said like that. He continued practicing devotional service. Our case is just the opposite. Something happens here and there. At home, someone says something, and first we get some reason and we give up devotional service. And here Prahlad Maharaj had all the reasons. His father was torturing him like anything, but he didn't give up devotional service. So the amazing lesson we can learn from this, all these devotees we can learn is continuing our devotional service no matter what. And who are our true friends? Who are our true well-wishers? Those who help us in this path of devotional service, those devotees who we associate, who help us advancing in devotional service. They are our true friends, they are our well-wishers. And someone who prohibits, someone who puts an obstacle in a path of devotional service, they are not our well-wishers. It might feel good to us when friends will tell us, "Arey, let's go for a movie, let's go for some party. What you are doing this chanting, you have become a Baba, or what you have become, what you are doing all this." We might feel very nice. But those are not the friends that will help us. Those are not the friends which will help us achieve the ultimate destination. They'll just pull our consciousness down and they will also go down. Our real friends are the devotees who help us advance in devotional service. And that's why we speak about association of devotees. And what is the importance of this association? What should we do in association? Like one time one devotee was telling this example. So in Gurukul, in Mayapur. So in Mayapur, we have a place in West Bengal called as Mayapur, and there we have a Gurukul. So Gurukul, few of the students that were studying there, the devotees that were there, few of them went for a movie. Without telling anyone, they quietly went for some movie, and when they came back and they were caught. So the teacher asked them, why did you do this? You were told not to do and not to engage in all these activities, not to watch all these movies and all this stuff. And they said, but you only told us we should do everything in association of devotees. So we were in association. My friend was sitting right side to me, one was back side, one was friend, and we took popcorn also together. We nicely enjoyed the movie. So association doesn't mean that coming in association and doing sense gratification. Association of devotees means coming together and discussing about the Lord, rising in devotional service. So as he gave one example of Prahlad Maharaj, any other example you can think of? Pandavas. What all they didn't go through. And that time the Lord was personally present. Many times this question is asked, Are Krishna was personally there and still they are going through all this? Still they are going through so many difficulties. They were sent to Vanvas, then 1 year of Agyatvas. And their wife, she was this Draupadi was tried to be disrobed in that assembly of sages. What all they went through, what all sufferings they went through. In the forest they went through so many problems. But that was an example just to show us the glorious nature of devotees. How they never gave up devotional service. In spite of all those sufferings, in spite of all this, they never said that let me give up, or why to worship this Lord, why to worship Krishna. And that was just to set an example how devotees never give up devotional service. Always come in the association and always practice devotional service. Consistently and stably. They never said that, okay, now we are in the forest, now things are very difficult to us. When we were in the kingdom, we had so many luxuries. That time we can do nice devotional service. Here why to do? Here why to chant and here why to do all these activities? They never said like that. Whether they were in the forest, wherever they were, they continued their practice. And that teaches the amazing lesson that never to actually give up or always being consistent in devotional service, always being stable in this devotional service. No matter whatever happens, ups and downs happens, we have to continue our practice. That is the example set by these Pandavas. In spite of going through all these things, even though Lord Krishna was personally present, in spite of losing their kingdom, and even when Lord Krishna went to Kuru's as Shanti Duta. And what did he ask for when he went as a peace messenger? 5 villages, and he said, I won't even give that. And then what did this Duryodhan says? That I won't even give that much land that is equivalent to the tip of the needle. I won't even give this much land to you. You do whatever you want. And after that only they decided we'll engage in a battle. Because Lord Krishna told them we should engage in a battle. But still, in spite of all those sufferings, in spite of all those problems, they never gave up devotional service. And even in the Bhagavad Gita, we see Arjuna in the beginning, seeing all those relatives, seeing all those brothers, he was confused. He was saying, should I kill these people or not? Just imagine the same people who had done so much to him, who had banished him from the kingdom, who had tried to disrobe his own wife. And still he was having some sympathy for them. Because the nature of the devotees is, they always think whatever I am going through, it is because of my own karma, my own fault. They never put faults on others. But of course, that was a dharma yuddha that had to happen because Lord wanted that to happen, so it was fought. So this is the example of we have the example of Prahlad Maharaj, we have the example of Pandavas. Who else we have? Yeah, we have the example of Srila Prabhupada. Before that, in the scriptures, we have example of Haridas Thakur. Haridas, I don't know, everyone knows about him, but few who might be knowing about, he was also a great devotee in the age of Kali Yuga. So all these, Prahlad Maharaj was there in the Satya Yuga. Pandavas was there in the Dwapar Yuga. But this Haridas Thakur, this personality was there in the Kali Yuga, 500 years before from now. Not very long back or not some previous Yugas. And he also showed by his example. He was told by a Muslim king that you give up devotional service, you stop chanting the holy names and you will be pardoned. But he said, do whatever you want, I won't give up this process. And that's why Haridas Thakur was beaten in 22 marketplaces. Beaten like anything, black and blue, but he didn't give up devotional service. He didn't give up chanting the names of the Lord. And because Lord was there with him, Lord personally protected him. And what happened after that? After he was beaten in 22 marketplaces, the people who were beating him, they were tired. They said, your hand is paining and you are not dying. What is wrong with you? And then he said that if you don't die, our master will kill us. Then Haridas Thakur says, okay, I'll pretend that I have died, and you tell your master I have died. But he didn't, he was not affected by that. Anyways, the point, these are very high level examples I am giving. We are not getting beaten anywhere. No one is taking us to some market and beating us nicely. But in spite of all this, for us, the simple problem that we have is our own mind, which just distracts us here and there to some or the other object, some or the other sense gratification, or some little bit problem comes in our life. Is our problem comparable to the problems of Prahlad Maharaj, Pandavas or Haridas Thakur? Is someone taking us to some marketplace, KR market somewhere and beating us or something? No, right? But still some problem here or there comes and we give up devotional service. But the point here we see is that these great devotees, no matter whatever happens, they don't give up. They don't give up devotional service. And similar, lastly, I would just like to end with the example of Srila Prabhupada. As he gave the example of Srila Prabhupada. Now, Srila Prabhupada was there only 60 years before. He was not there 500. Someone may say, "Okay, 500 years before, I cannot relate with him. Who was him and all that." Srila Prabhupada was there, right, just some years before to us. And how much he struggled, how much hardships he took, and still continued his practice of devotional service. So Srila Prabhupada, when he was in his old age, he used to stay in Vrindavan in a temple called as Radha Damodar temple. He was staying there, he was nicely practicing his bhajan, he was doing devotional service, and he had every facility. He could have nicely been there and just practiced devotional service and attained the goal of life. But he had the instructions of his guru, instructions of his spiritual master, and they were that you have to preach in English language, you have to preach in the West. And because of that, just because of this instruction, he took so much austerities. So it's described in the initial days when he didn't have any facilities. So he used to go from that temple, from Radha Damodar temple, just to print his books, just to get all the books. See, now if we want to print books, we have all the facilities. We go to some printing shop, we give them a PDF and we just get the books printed. 60 years before from now, it was not easy. Even to get papers to print the books, it was not easy. Prabhupada used to go from Vrindavan, he used to go to Mathura. And how he used to go? Not by Ola or Uber. He used to go in these horse rickshaws that were there. So himself in that old age, he used to go to Mathura. From Mathura, he used to catch a train and he used to go to Delhi. And in Delhi, he used to do everything by himself. First, to get his books printed, he used to go and buy the papers. Then he used to himself write the content. Whatever he has to write, the translations and purports, he himself used to do it. He was the writer, he was the editor, he was the one who used to check any discrepancies are there. Then he used to go to the printing presses and request them that please print this material. And after that was also a struggle, that was a different struggle altogether because he hardly had any money. He used to say to them, request to them that you just print these books and after printing, I'll say, go and distribute these books and whatever money comes, I'll give it to you. Like that, he struggled a lot just to get these books printed. And after printing also, there are many other things like proofreading, this and that, many other aspects of printing a book. Those who are involved in this, they know that it's complex, it's a very complex procedure. But in Prabhupada's time, he was the only one. He was the writer, he was the publisher, he was the editor, he was the proofreader, everything he did on his own. And what after that? When the books was printed, do you think he had some people he'll give the books and go and distribute, or some distributors were waiting for his books eagerly? That now Prabhupada's books are getting printed, I'll just buy that book. That time, ISKCON was not there, nobody even knew this personality. He used to go out in Delhi, in the streets, in that hot weather, and go and personally meet people. Personally go to restaurants, personally go to different places, personally go to chai dhabas, stalls and all, just to distribute his books. Personally request everyone that please read this book, please read this Bhagavatam. In that hot weather of Delhi, in that old age, he used to go and distribute all those books. And sometimes even in that hot weather, because of lack of any facility, because of lack of any help, sometimes it's described he even got sunstroke and he fainted. And he fainted and no one was there even to help him. Then somehow by fortune, some people came and took him and put him in the hospital. Actually put him in the hospital and he got some proper care that was needed. But even after all that, when he woke up, when he came back to consciousness, again he continued the same thing. Again he went and started distributing his books in that place, in that weather, in that area, without any help. That was Prabhupada, never unending spirit or that determination to practice devotional service no matter whatever happens. And similarly, there is a story, an amazing story how he went to the West. So now how people go to the West? They take passport, they get a visa and they go to the West. So do you think Prabhupada also, it was so simple that just take some passport, visa and then he'll go to West? No, it was not at all simple. First of all, Prabhupada came to know that there is one personality, there is one lady, her name was Sumati Morarji. So Prabhupada was in Mumbai for some time. There he came to know this lady had some business of ships. The steamers, the cargo ships that are there, and this lady delivers those ships to different parts of the world. So when he came to know like this, he thought he'll meet this personality. Because Prabhupada didn't have any money for passport, visa, ticket and nothing. He was a sannyasi, he was a beggar. And so Prabhupada, because he wanted to go to the West, he went and met this personality. And the meeting is also very, very interesting. So Mumbai, he went to that place. This company was known as Scindia Company, Scindia Steamers Company. He went to that place. He went to the gate of that place. And then, do you think he was welcomed there? He was not even allowed inside. He was not even allowed inside. The guard told him, you stop here, you're not allowed to go inside. He requested, give me one appointment. I want to meet this lady. I want to meet Sumati Morarji. She will help me, I'm sure. This person didn't even allow him inside. And what did Prabhupada do? He left that place dejected, or what? What do you think he would have done? He just waited on the staircase. He just waited in that place for 5 hours altogether, chanting the holy names of the Lord, just determined that somehow or the other, if I meet this lady, I'll be able to give my message. So in the evening, what happened when Sumati Morarji was coming out of her office and she was going through that stairs, she happened to see this person. She happened to see Srila Prabhupada. And she was the one who asked her secretary that, who is this person? And then they told him the story that this is a person, this is a saint who has come to meet you. He wanted some help in going to the West and printing some books. And then Sumati Morarji, because she was a pious lady, she had some background, she had met some saints, she used to help saints. She gave him that appointment that you come to me the next day. And this is how Prabhupada was given that appointment. He went in the next day, met Sumati Morarji, and after a lot of discussion, finally she allowed him to board that cargo ship to actually go to West, to actually go to America. That is the history. It was not just that buying one ticket, buying one visa, and then went to America. Now this is about how he struggled first in Delhi to print the books, to distribute the books. Then he got little bit money. Then he struggled to go to the West. Now what after that? Okay, Prabhupada reached the West. Prabhupada reached that Boston. Was it easy after that? Did he had some contacts? He had some people, oh, I've come to the West. Please open the institution. Please help me preach the message. Did something? He hardly knew anybody in the West. He had only 40 rupees in his pocket and he hardly knew anyone. Only one person, far off person that was there, not a close acquaintance that was there. That was Gopal Agarwal. He just knew one person and somehow or other he managed to go there to his place. There also nothing much he could do, he couldn't preach much there. So finally he left that place also and he went to a place called as Bauri. And this Bauri that was there, that was famous for something. What was it famous for? It was famous for the hippie movement that was going there. So everyone knows hippie movement. What was this hippie movement? So there were a group of people that had started this movement and they were the rejected people of the society. They gave up everything. They gave up their normal life. They went out on the streets, engaged in intoxication, LSD, this and that. And they were the rejected portion of the society who lived a very, very unproductive life, not doing anything in life. They were the hippies. And Prabhupada, because he couldn't get an accommodation anywhere, he didn't have any facility, somehow or other he got some place in that Bauri, in the center place, in the, in the headquarters of all these hippies that are there. He managed to get accommodation there. Just imagine a sannyasi who has been living such a pure life, such a pious life, and now living among these people who are the outcasts from the society. But why was Prabhupada doing all this? Was he enjoying all this? Was he enjoying staying with these people, or was he enjoying the nice environment of intoxication or all that? No. Because Prabhupada just had one goal. I have been given my instruction and I am determined to follow my instruction. I am determined to execute that instruction. With that goal in mind, he stayed in that place, Bauri. Even there also difficulties happened. There also he was sent out of that place. One of the person, his roommates, he got drunk, he went crazy and he actually tried to kill. He ran behind Prabhupada to kill him. Just imagine a 70-year-old person and this person is trying to harm that person. And Prabhupada immediately ran out of that place, ran whatever little bit he had, He ran out of that place in search of some other place. This is how he struggled in the West also. This was not easy opening ISKCON. It was not a one-day affair that he went and he just started the mission. He struggled a lot. First in India, in Delhi, in Bombay, and then in the West. There also he struggled. He said from India he hardly carried anything. He carried some set of Bhagavatams. He carried 40 rupees and he had a little typewriter. That typewriter he carried for writing the books. After some time, that typewriter was also stolen. Some thief came and he even stole the typewriter. Now just imagine, after hearing all this, if we would have been in that place, what would we have done? We would have just thrown away everything and just come back to India. What is this happening with me? I'm trying to execute the mission of the Lord and still so many problems are coming. Still so many difficulties are coming. Why is this happening? This doesn't work. Lord is like that. Lord is not there, it seems. Or Lord will not help me. But Prabhupada did not do anything like that. Prabhupada continued. He was determined, and later on, Lord sent help for him. One day in the Tompkins Square, when he was doing Sankirtan, many people surrounded him. Of course, they were also the hippies, and they were the first persons who he gave the Bhagavatam class. Those hippies sitting here and there in the class, some were looking at the wall, some were looking here and there, and Prabhupada is speaking. Just like I am speaking, you are all looking here. His first audience, it was not that civilized. He was giving the class, some are sitting looking at the wall, some are doing something. That was his first audience. And one person who was a little bit logical, he came to Prabhupada, he asked that, why are these people sitting like this? Like you are speaking something and there, some are looking in the wall, some are looking here and there. Why are all these sitting like that? Why are all these people sitting like that? And Prabhupada very humbly said, I also don't know. So that was the mood of Prabhupada. Even after all that, he continued his efforts, he continued preaching to these people. And later on, we all know how he excelled in that efforts, how he started ISKCON, and ISKCON spread like wildfire throughout, in the West and even in India. The point I was trying to make throughout all this example and throughout all this is how Prabhupada or how these devotees are determined. How these are determined that even whatever happens to their body or whatever happens in their life, they will never give up devotional service. They will continue practicing devotional service. There is another video of Prabhupada, the last times of Prabhupada. Has anyone seen those disappearance days of Prabhupada, the last audio tapes of Prabhupada? That is available on YouTube. So in that video, that is the last days of Prabhupada when he was in Vrindavan. And that time his body was very, very weak. That was after ISKCON was established, everything was there. He had many, many big temples, many big facilities, everything was there. And he was there in Vrindavan and his body was very, very weak. And it was a few days after that he passed away. He was about to die. And even at that time, those videos are still there. At that time also he was engaged in something. Even at the last moment of his life, he was engaged. He asked someone, he was very, very weak.